How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry. Yeah. So, things are pretty real. They're also getting pretty bad. After playing the game, having some time to think about it, and even reading some of your comments, there's a few kind of conclusions and then some kind of realizations that I've had. So let's go over them real quick. First thing is that, Keiichi's in a really rough spot. If you combine the fact that he's so young, he's in this age where it's not like he has instant communications or cell phones. He doesn't get to have the option of choosing where he lives. He can't just leave town. He's worried about telling his family about what's going on and what they might do, but either A, that could paint a target on their back, which is ironically exactly what the harassers would want, is like to lock you down in fear. And secondly, I do genuinely think they wouldn't take him seriously before something terrible happened, and that could be really, really bad. Because we've already seen that Mion and Rena have been considerate of the fact that when they thought his parents were home, they behaved differently. But Rena's acting much more aggressive because she knows he's alone. So relying on parents probably actually wouldn't be very helpful. I still think it'd be good to have like a paper trail, essentially. But you know, he's got his clock message, so that's got to be enough, hopefully. Other than that, I think that it's just like, and ultimately, regardless of what he does, I think he's not in a good place, and I don't see this ending very well for him. I hope it does, but I'm worried that it's going to get to the point where he's going to have to, like, defend himself, and then he's going to have to make the case, if he defends himself and actively hurts somebody, he's going to have to then defend himself as to why he did that, and he's going to look like a psychopath, but it might be the only way out at this point. Granted, he already has kind of hurt someone. Rena, he smashed her fingers in the door. Really hard, and probably broke some, but I don't know for sure. But here's the thing. I was so caught up in the moment and how it just ended, I hadn't given any thought to the fact that he's continuing this conversation with Oishi. Why hasn't he thought of the fact that Rena might not have left? He says he locked his house. What if he forgot something? What if Rena knows something, like where he hides his key? Maybe she was given a key. Because that's the thing, it's like, Keiichi's parents like Rena and think that there's something like they're budding best friends and potentially like in a romantic relationship. If she very sweetly asked for a way to check in on him, especially because I think that she learned that they were gone because they told her, hey, we didn't get a chance to tell him, but we're going to be going. Can you let him know we're going to be out of town for at least one night? What if she was then offered a key to the house? So she could be in the house right now, listening in again at the door, getting confirmation that he's turning into an enemy. He's asking questions about her. That's what I think is going to be the next reveal. And it's unfortunate because if I had kept playing and that is a reveal, it might have been better delivered if I hadn't had time to think about it. But in the week since, kind of preparing and working, the thought occurred to me, like, we left her, like, writhing in pain outside our door. Nothing says she has to leave. And in fact, Rena's shown a tenacity that would imply she wouldn't leave. She would probably try to get into the house. And I imagine that she'll be successful. Especially if she decides to just go, broken glass at school again and just smash her way in. I don't know if she's gotten to that point yet, but she could. And what's Keiichi gonna do then, huh? Again, leads me to that conclusion. I feel like there's only two ways this ends. Either he's gonna die, or he's going to fight back, hurting somebody else, and being sent to a hospital slash mental institution. I don't see it ending any other way. And I imagine that's gonna kick off here real quick, because I think he's going to have a conversation with Oishi, get some insight into Rena's past, and I think Rena's going to kick in the door. Maybe she'll have the bat. I don't know. We'll see. So let's move on, because there's not much else to say. I just wanted to get that off my chest, because I've been thinking about it all week, and it's been chewing on me. This game, this darn game. Let's go on. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Oh, I'm scared. Alright, you are aware this won't be very interesting, right? Oishi-san, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved. Yeah, I agree. Oh, sorry, I hit the microphone. Right, so keep it to yourself. Some of it's not fact, it's just guesswork. Right, fair. Yes.
真実ではないかもしれない。言ってる意味がよくわかりません。
Hinamizawaの連続開始事件は捜査本部がありません。毎年の事件はここに扱われています。ですから、竜宮レナが捜査線に浮上したことは一度もないのです。つまりですね。
レナの調査は警察としてでなく。
Okay, that's also true. So they, like, hardcore fact gathering hasn't been done. He most likely has just seen snippets and interviews from other people in other departments in other cases, namely the case of her smashing glass at the school. He's probably looking into that investigation, but because it's not tied to this one, the source material may be less official and might not dive as much, and so he's making logical leaps to try and kind of make it work, which means there's a lot of room for error.
個人として行ったということですか？
ご理解いただけて助かります。話のほとんどは電話、もしくは会って聞かせてもらったものばかりです。
Right.
ですから裏が取れていません。鵜呑みにしないでほしい。
And understand that most of this also wouldn't be admissible in a court proceeding unless it could be verified.
ご理解いただけますね。
全部聞いた話だけなんですか？
申し訳ないです。個人調査ですのでね。
あれ、以前レナのカルテを見たって言いませんでしたか？確かにそう聞きましたよ。
Oishi-san paused for a moment on the other end of the line.
そんなことも言いましたかね。気のせいということにしてください。
He's like, crap, I should have said that. I didn't care about Oishi-san having certain obligations and responsibilities. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Even if they were just rumors, there's no smoke without fire, after all.
話してください、大石さ
ん。わかりました。
Oishi-san finally opened up the tips, those tight lips of his. Here we go. It seemed that Rena lived in Hinamizawa a long time ago. She'd moved to Ibaraki Prefecture just before starting elementary school. Then, following that, right after transferring, the unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows happened. Then Rena confided to the doctor. It was Oyashiro-sama. This was everything I knew.
私が知る話も前原さんと大きくは変わりません。
では、どこを詳しく調べたんですか？
I didn't need to ask. It was the incident right before she transferred back to Hinamizawa.
レナが起こした事件と、その後の医者での告白ですね。
I mean, it's the only stuff that's probably relevant.
はい。
大石さんはその内容を知っているからこそ、レナたちを疑っているんですね。
疑っています。
やはりレナたちが犯人。
いえ、疑うとはそういう意味ではないんです。
I think he's saying he suspects that they know more and like they know enough, or are what's it called when you're not a participant, but because you had knowledge of of crimes that were occurring, complicit. They're complicit. Huh? Oishi-san was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these particular words were less than reassuring.
じゃあ何を疑ってるんですか？
親代様ですよ。
What? I thought you said the curse wasn't real.
親代様のたたりって本当にあるのかな
？Please. I know he doesn't quite understand what crisis we're in, but please don't. Oishi-san's laugh was quite dry, certainly not the kind that would make you want to join in. Oishi-san resumed the conversation about the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance. The course of events leading to him to delve into Rena's past. Just then, there was a thunder in the distance and heavy rain started pouring down. Oh no. Oh, this just spells bad news. Came without warning, a downpour fiercely beating the ground. I had left the window in my room open, a crack let out the heat out. The violent wind danced into my room, making the curtains flap wildly.
どうしました？
いえ、急にすごい雨が。すみません。どうぞ続けてください。
It's gonna cover up sounds, isn't it? I got up while still on the phone and grabbed the window.
はじめに事件と申し上げましたが、
Oh, fetch.
学校側も被害者も告発していないので、正式には事件ではないのです。
You know what? Remember how I said that, like, I'm sure Reno's listening in on him and might be in the house because of a key? Doesn't even need to be that convoluted. He has his window open. She's outside. Of course she's hearing the conversation. She's listening to the conversation outside right now.
でですね、この辺りがどうも関係者皆さん口が重いんですよ。被害者の一人は片目に後遺症を残すぐらい殴られているのにもかかわらずです。学校側か、もしくは表沙汰になるのを望まない何者かがまたカウンセリングを担当した神経科医も職業倫理に厳格な方で。
Basically, the psychologists were doing their job and not disclosing information that wasn't strictly necessary. You know, right for privacy.
もしもし、前原さん、聞こえてます？
There was a figure of a person standing by the light of the mailbox this whole time. Even in the torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were unquestionably drenched from head to toe. In a shower that was more resembled a waterfall, droplets of water dripped down from her hair. Oh gosh. Oh, I see it. No, wrong button. Look at her hand, it's bleeding. Both hands are bleeding. And it's drenched. God, that's a haunting sight. Just standing there, both arms dangling at her side. In one hand was the stack of boxes wrapped in cloth. Her eyes focused on my room. Her focus on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. I was afraid. It was as if she had something hard to chew in her mouth, with her cheeks puffing out. What could she be eating over there? How could that be? How could it be at this time I was more enthralled by Rena instead of the shocking developments being brought to light by Oishi-san? If it hadn't started raining, I wouldn't have gone to the window. Then I wouldn't have noticed Rena, nor would I have noticed that. Rena's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something, she was repeating something. What was it? Was she repeating? Was she repeating? To me? What was she saying? Well, when we left her, she was saying, I'm sorry. And why was I, right up against the window, fixated on her?
もしもし、前原さん、聞こえてますか？もしもーし。
ごめんなさい。
え、前原さん？
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
Oh
ごめ
boy.
んなさい。
もしもし、前原さん、どうしましたか？
Even in a torrential downpour, Rena was still apologizing. The other self inside me drew the curtain hastily with my right hand blocking my view of the outside. But even doing that, Rena's relentless apology still reached my ears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I forgive you this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. I'm sorry. 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 Dang it! Why should I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed. If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive. 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 I won't forgive.
前原さん、聞こえてるなら返事をしてください。もしもーし。
He's losing it. He's losing it. If it turns out I was that close to the end of the chapter, the last part, I'm gonna be annoyed. Gosh darn it! That sucks. Alright, well, we'll see. Maybe it's a longer episode doing these two tips and see if there's any other tips at the next one. But I'm guessing the chapters are longer now than usual, so. Alright, let's see the new tips. Split personality, question mark?
よく映画などに登場しますが、簡単に言うとどのようなものでしょうか?
Interesting. I just realized we're having like the talk about split personalities in like Higurashi and Chaos Head at the same time. That's disconcerting at best.
複数の人格を持つことによる
多重人格は逃避の一つなのですか?
作用です。そのメカニズムは完全には解明されていませんが、精神を守るために脳が行う防御行動の一つではないかと考えられています。
例えば貧乏な人がお金持ちになった自分を想像するという現実逃避ってありますよね。これも多重人格なわけですか?
What do they mean by poor people imagining themselves as wealthy? Like, is that just them daydreaming, or are they talking about like the mentality that some people have where they live well beyond their means, like striving to buy really expensive things to appear like they're wealthy when they're really struggling? And I wouldn't call that a multiple personality disorder.
極論はできませんが、講義的にはそう解釈できます。つまり、誰にでもあり得る現象なのです。
その現実逃避の見境がなくなると二重人格になるのですか？
Maybe.
ちょっと難しいですね。そう提唱する説もありますし、否定する説もあります。
I'd call it a disorder when if you have like multiple personalities. Again, I said it in Chaos Seb, I'll say it here. That, but they're kind of clarifying it here in a much better way, where it's not like it's literally different people or different persons stuck inside your body. It's more, they're just slices of yourself that are just kind of compartmentalized and isolated in you, and they manifest as expressions of ways of dealing with trauma. But the idea here is, I'd say more to the effect that you would call a disorder when your compartmentalization starts to affect your ability to interact and have healthy relationships, to have a healthy lifestyle, to have a personality like expression that makes decisions that are harmful to themselves and to their other aspects and personalities. When you start to self-sabotage because your compartmentalization is taken to such a degree where essentially instead of being indecisive like most of us are, they become decisive, but of different minds and different personalities. Thus, they're actively making decisions that they then later disagree with and feeling like that they're sabotaging their own lives. That's a disorder.
諸説紛々です。
では、精神医学の世界ではまだ多重人格というのは未知の解明されていない現象なんですか？
As far as I'm aware, that's still the case to this day.
残念ながらそうなります。今後の研究が期待されます。
でも二重人格なんてなんだかかっこいいですよね。どういう人が二重人格になれるんですか？
I said it in the Chaos video. Like, I would love to just physically meet in person someone who is suffering or feeling that they suffer from multiple personalities, and I just would understand their perspective. Like, why do you think that? What is it like living in your life? Do you ever find it like does it make some things easier? Does it make things harder? I'd love to just have a really just frank conversation with someone.
なれると言いますか、なりやすいと言いますか。最近の研究では遺伝と死因が複雑に絡み合い、中でも幼少期の育児体験が大きく作用するのではないかと言われています。
Yeah, like a lot of times there's like a consistent thread of like trauma, and the idea is that like trauma, especially in youth, like kids just don't know how to process that, and so splitting personality is a way of trying to do that by saying the thought being, if you disassociate when the trauma's happening and you lock that part of you away, those memories and those like the feelings that are associated with those memories, you can retain a sense of innocence where it feels like the rest of your life can move forward as if it never happened, and you've kind of stuffed that slice of your life away, and if that becomes your way of dealing with trauma down the line, as things evolve, as you mature, it's like life gets tumultuous and more complicated, you compartmentalize other things that aren't just trauma anymore, but just extreme emotions or extreme parts of your life. And you can do things too, like when you compartmentalize your childhood innocent self, right? That part of you probably doesn't ever seem to grow up, and so you can manifest that type of personality, and it might reflect a childlike state, because it's essentially a freeze frame or like a snapshot of your state of mind at that time that you wanted to protect, or a snapshot of the frame of mind that helped you survive. Thus, those two different personalities, and they seem incongruent with each other. Now, it's believed that then that can become so powerfully manifest that you start to struggle to function as a person, and that's where it gets really odd and interesting, because it's like, how much of this is just simply a misconception or a self-defense mechanism? Is it something that can go away with proper treatment and care, or is it a permanent aspect of their lives and something that they'll have to wrestle with for the rest of their life?
そういえば この A 君も家庭に問題を抱えてるんですよね。気の毒に。7つの人格を持つ青年 A。では、VTR の続きをどうぞ。ですが、その前にコマーシャル。
Gosh darn it, TV sucks. Alright, they're bringing that up, so it must be worth thinking about. Now at the Seventh Mart. This is going to be Rena following him, isn't it? The Seventh Mart was a bargain supermarket with food and alcohol. What's this, Keiichi? Oh no, what's this, Keiichi? So many? There's no reason to get all the different kinds, is there? I flopped all the different colored cup noodle bowls into the cart.
最近のカップ麺は凝ってて種類も多いんだよ。どれも一通りは食ってみたいし。
Honestly, if I were that parent, I'd actually get behind that unless it was like a money problem. But I'd be like, you know what, fair. Or actually, what I'd probably say is like, hey, let's get a bulk one of one you know you like, and then get like 3 you want to try. I knew it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try. Keiichi, buy them in a big case. It's cheaper. Dad faltered. Well, I had a feeling it'd end up like this. Now that Dad had thrown his hat into the ring, I'd have to compromise.
それじゃあ1種類しか食えないよ。飽きちゃうって。
I was resisting as a formality. I had already given up inside and wasn't sure which case of noodles to get. If you can't pick, then Mommy will pick for you. You don't have to rush me. I quickly searched the case of noodles up for what I wanted. Pork bone and ginger, large cup. Hey Keiichi, can you get a more normal one? If I let Mom pick, she'd err on the side of safety and get the soy sauce or salt flavored. Wait, aren't they already salt flavored? Like the noodles are salt based. How can you have salt flavor? So I guess if you get salt flavor, that means it just doesn't have much flavor packed, so you could add your own sauce to it. That might actually be a good idea if you have a good sauce at home. So I plonked a large box of pork bone flavor at the shopping cart. Mom looked back at me with an expression as if to say, "Those ones?" To show her this was my last compromise, I began explaining the choice.
豚骨はうまいんだよ。大盛りだけど大味ってわけじゃないし。
I remembered insisting the noodles I picked were the right kind. Oh boy. Oh, grayscale. In this frozen memory of time, this encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around my surroundings. So I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpening my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched through my field of vision, I couldn't see Rena. I rewound the situation searching. What is he doing? Mind, like, palacing? But of course, I couldn't find her. Then, was she spying on me from a blind spot? I go through the sound and presence again looking. Could sense the other customers. They were all mixed about, moving as they pleased. There was nobody looking over this way, and nobody trying to get behind me. Not here. Couldn't be here. Probably wasn't here. I would definitely notice if someone was right behind me, even when I wasn't on my guard. I smiled wryly at the thought of using a vague word like probably right before contradicting it with definitely. Yeah, again. Then I paused my mental replay as a chill ran down my spine. By the way, that sound was a sound of a violin. There is a section, so you have a bridge, and you have the strings, and you draw your bow across the strings to do that. Now you can make that kind of sound in 2 ways. One is where you press on the bow really hard, you put your fingers down on the notes you want to play, and you kind of drag the bow. Because it's made of horsehair, it has like these natural, like, almost like Velcro like hooks. They're meant to snag and to grab at stuff. And that's what makes the string vibrate. So if you push down really hard, more you force those hooks to go, and it kind of makes a grinding sensation as like hooks from different angles kind of pull in different ways on the string. But the easiest way is to go above the bridge and hit the gap where the strings are coming out from, like kind of the loom at the bottom where the tension's held, and the actual bridge. And that alone, just like drawing across that, it just makes a screeching sound. There was definitely a presence like a shadow behind me. There was a terror unlike any other. If a presence had manifested behind me, it would definitely have turned around to check for it. But the world had moved on. There was no way for me to turn around. While carrying that frightening shadow on my back, I gleefully running around the store searching for a case of noodles. Running through the instant noodle section, bad-mouthing my mom. But there was that presence constantly at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way to see what it was. Realizing it now after the fact was horrifying and repulsive. In that moment of time, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box. Tip-tap. But listening to that moment again, I could hear footsteps other than mine going pip-pat with every step. Tip-tap, tip-tap, tip-tap. Pap-pap, pip-pap, pip-pap. Tip-tap, tip-tap. Pip-pap, pip-pap. The tip-tap, pip-tap-tap. Pip-pap, pip-pap. That sounds like two different sets of footsteps, though. While I was running, the sound of those barefoot footsteps going pip-pap were right behind mine. Me running around gleefully in that closed-off moment in time. But I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remembered it. I didn't think I had heard anything. That's why I didn't turn around. That's why I didn't turn around. In that moment, the pit-pat of the footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run any faster than I had run at that time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before, not once. Then I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right on my back. Since I didn't move, the shadow didn't move. That's why it made no sound. That was all. At that time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking to my parents. It was just standing there. This was undeniable. And yet, I heard it. A pit-pat. That shouldn't be. Oh, the tip-tap was his steps, and the pip-pap is the thing. If I took these steps, followed by 3 steps, wasn't that the rule? There's no sound other than that. Oh, interesting. Yeah, because what he's saying here. Where was it? Tip-tap, pip-pat, tip-tap, pip-pat, tip-tap, 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 pip-pat, pip. Okay, so it's matching his steps. I thought it might be a different number, like he took 3 and it took 2, and that could tell us it was taller than him. At the time, the entire world had gone dark. A sudden darkness. It was the end of my reflective journey. Oh, I was tired. I wanted to end it. Someone turn on the light. Except my body couldn't move. As if I was sewn in that moment of time. Pit-pat. My past self's hair stood on end. That's impossible. Now that's just breaking the rules. I hadn't moved, so you shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move, so you shouldn't be able to move either. Follow the rules. Pit-pat. Yet that sound echoed in the darkness once again. The hair on the back of my neck pricked up on end. It was so close that it was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move like how the presence was moving behind me? I quickly realized I could move. It's just that I was scared and didn't want to. But now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time. But I needed to turn around immediately. If my entire being was trying to force me to stop, it began to administer a pain like a needle being stuck into my every pore. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. I scream I was unable to vocalize. Roar! I turned around. At first, I couldn't understand the meaning of it. What is this? Just as a person's mouth might bite into an apple, slurp the juices, and finally discover that it was an apple, my mind began to process the scene before my eyes by eating the apple. Munch, munch, chew, chew. Slurp the juices and discover the apple. Meaning, what was in front of me was... What? Gosh, you can't do that! I read all the tips. Oh my gosh, are we actually like at the end of the game? What the fetch? That was saying I read all the tips. That means there's no other tips. Is this the end of the... Oh my god, what? No. It's already almost over? I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there was definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. I spent all night hugging the metal bat and sat on top of the futon I used to barricade my door. Waiting, watching just in case someone tried to break through my window. If I left this spot, someone would break through the door, sending my futon flying and attack me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break the glass and attack me. I tried telling myself I was being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant taking that risk, I didn't need it. It was so much better just to stay awake. At some point during that endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside, but that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was just the sun simply having risen. I snuck a peek through the curtain. Rena was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere, no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time, but I needed to make my own breakfast, so I'd better get started soon. Skipping school was also an option. With my mom gone, it'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable. I don't see why you don't! So staying holed up in here was probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oishi-san wouldn't help me without cold, hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So unless I found some sort of proof, these relentless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. I regulated my breathing and regained my senses. Calm down, Keiichi Maribara. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set the trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure infutable evidence. Take note of the plates of any cars that drive by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai, both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they drew their katanas. It was not a disadvantage. I would have a chance to retaliate. Bro, you are assuming a lot, and you're outnumbered a lot, I think. Even if it's like a small fraction of the city, it's still a lot. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. Alright, let's go to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He was the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength. I entrusted your dying regret to me since you're probably murdered. I'll make sure I'll dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run into Rena or Mion, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right. I meant to clean that up last night, but never got around to it with the phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleared it up now, and considering what would happen if I ran to Rena or Mion, it wouldn't be too late to clean up after I got home. Making extra certain that the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today I was going to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, Keiichi Maribara. The only one who gets to decide if today's my last is me. That's an ideal thought. How much you want to bet they showed up early too? I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Rena arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Rena said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. Just heard her telling Satoko and the others that the bandages were from hurting herself in the kitchen. Though it wasn't like it bothered me. The details of Oishi-san shared by Rena's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Rena as a cute, ideal girl. It's so sad. I really like you as a character, Mion. I really did. But now it's like I can't help but just feel instant hostility. It was Mion. I had already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised.
ミオンか。分かってるなら放っておいてくれよ。俺は甲子園で忙しいんだ。
I gave her a curt reply without my usual jokes. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing, tactically keeping Mion from getting any closer.
ケイちゃんさ、ちょっと休憩。
I think Mion got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest.
ホームルームまであとちょっとだろ。もう一汗かかせてくれよ。
I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal.
ケイちゃんって野球好きだったっけ？
最近好きになった。
最近って昨日から？
分かってんなら聞くなよ。
あれまあ、スポーツマンにしては爽やかじゃないお返事だことで。
気が散る。放っておいてくれ。
I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Normally, she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this. But Mion just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility. But we were at school in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out.
何か用なんだろう。なんだよ。
Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I might not be able to move as needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina in addition to the excuse for carrying the bat around with me.
用ってわけでもないけどさ。お疲れのようなら後にするけど。
今でいい。
I'm only dealing with you now because I judge the situation to be safe. Talking to you alone, away from others, that's out of the question.
さ。
Mion was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Keiichi-san, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mire.
おじさんダメだわ。こういうの。ボキャ品は辛い
Uh-huh.
わ。
なんだよ突然。言いたいことがあるならはっきりと言えよ。
やめてよ。素振り。
She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank, I didn't understand it for a moment. I had already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I?
ちゃんとやめてるだろ。
じゃなくて、今日で終わりにしてほしいの。悪いけど。
It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. What's wrong with swinging a bat?
なんでだよ。余計なお世話だよ。別に誰にも迷惑かけてないだろ。
かけてる。
Mion said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating.
俺がいつ誰に迷惑をかけたよ。
Yeah? Mion was at a loss for words, but she finally made up her mind and spoke. Though she stuttered as she said it.
だってさ、ケイちゃん。それ、人のバットだしさ。無断借用は悪いし。
転校した生徒の忘れ物だろ。本人が取りに来るまで借りてるだけだよ。
ああ。まあね。転校したし。
Right. Mion grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that his transfer was a lie.
でも変わってるよな。兄貴だけ転校なんだろ。妹は転校しなかったんだろ。
Mion couldn't hide her reaction as my words shook her up.
ケイちゃん。知ってたの？
It's called asking questions.
王城聡。聡子の兄貴だろ。去年、鬼隠しにあって消えた。
Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent.
レナにも言われた。なんで素振りを始めたのかってな。聡もやってたんだってな。素振り。それも失踪の直前に。これってさ、お社様のたたりに合う前兆ってわけなのか？
He's being really bold. I kind of love it though, but he's putting his cards on the table. Mion panicked and looked around.
頼むよ、ケイちゃん。お社様の話はうかつにしないでよ。
Now that's an interesting expression. She genuinely looks worried now. It's because she believes in the curse, I'm guessing, but still.
私はそんなに信じてないからいいけどさ。他のみんなはすごく信じてる。
Oh, interesting.
レナなんかやばいくらいに。
やばいくらいに？
とにかく。
Dangerously so?
みんな怖がってるんだよ。もしもこれが悪ふざけならやめな。サトシの真似は絶対にやめて。
I was the one who was scared. Who do I have to thank for taking up this bat in the first place? But it still unsettled me knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It'd be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions.
先に言っとく。俺はサトシのことは何も知らない。みんなが隠してたからな。
隠してたってわけじゃ。
Oh, really?
毎年起こる事件のことを隠してたろ。
それはケイちゃんを。
It's weird. She feels like she's being genuine, like kind of like it was out of like just like wanting to protect him and whatnot. But at the same time, like, who's the one who was being all creepy and threatening, huh? Who was peeking through the door, making like stuff? Who put needles in the food? It was you guys.
怖がらせたくなかったってのか？それが理由で俺だけのけ者かよ。
いや、そんなつもりじゃ。
ミオンに直に
ダム現場で事件がなかったかって聞いたよな。ミオンはないって言ったじゃないか。バラバラ殺人があったのによ。嘘つき野郎。
ごめん。嘘ってわけじゃ。
That's bull crap, but I can understand if it were isolated. If it was just like trying not to freak me out for some reason, I could understand that lie being not intended in a way, like a reflex. Like she's just told, don't talk about it. But no, we've crossed some lines here.
仲間ってのは隠し事なんかなしだろ。そうだろ。じゃあお前らは仲間じゃない。
ケイちゃん。そんなのって。
Mion looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining tears in her eyes? I never could have imagined Mion acting like this.
ああ、それに先日の見舞いのおはぎ。
Oh.
あれうまかったぜ。血が出るかと思った。
Yeah.
やったのはどっちだ。お前か、レナか。
私。
She admitted it so easily. Yeah, okay, Mion. So, you think we're gonna trust anything you say? At all? I couldn't help but be surprised at how easy that was.
死ぬかもしれなかったんだぞ。仲間にあんな真似をするのかよ。
そんな。ちょっとしたいたずらじゃん。
Mion gave me a wry smile mixed with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside me.
あれがいたずらで済むかよ。
It grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce in a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I had swallowed that and it lodged in my throat, what did she think would happen? Mion's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mion Sonozaki I knew anymore.
とにかく、お前は仲間じゃない。仲間じゃない奴の指図は受ける言われはない。俺のことは当分放っておいてもらうぜ。いいな。
Mion wasn't replying anymore.
俺を消そうとしても簡単にはいかないからな。お前らは最初から警察に疑われてんだ。
Oh, hey, Keiichi. I don't think you should be saying that.
サトシを消せたように簡単に消せると思うなよ。
I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war.
俺も過去の事件はお前らが怪しいと思ってる。ダムの反対運動の時からお前が警察の世話になってたことも隠しきれてると思うなよ。いいな。
I would want to point out if I were him, I'd be like, the only reason I even know this stuff is because you forced me into a corner here.
どうしてそんなことまで。
Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. That was when I heard the principal ring the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom.
行こうぜ。委員長がいないとまずいだろ。ん？
At that moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks.
ひどいよ、ケイちゃん。
I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty.
俺、行くぜ。ホームルーム遅れるなよ。
I left Mion still shaking as I turned around to head for the entrance. I wouldn't show my back to her. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter as she was speaking to herself.
そっか。
Yeah, I wouldn't have trusted her at all.
Eh?
She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself. But it was a sobbing voice that had kind of gritty, cursing tone. I had inadvertently stopped and turned back toward her.
ケイちゃんに全部バラしたの。あの野郎か。
I don't like that. I don't like that. She balled up her fists, her tears continuing to rain down. She glared at a spot of the ground with a terrifying, yet smiling, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from the demonic expression. That transformation, Mion's transformation, was different from Rena's.
あの時殺しとくんだったな。今年で定年だからって容赦してやった恩も忘れやがって。
Oh my gosh, she was planning to... What the fetch? Are you serious? Retiring this year? Was she talking about Oishi-san?
ちくしょう。ちくしょう。あのじじい。絶対に殺してやる。
I felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center of the world, had begun to twist and spiral. Bending. Whirling. This was the first time I'd known no experience such a visage. We're just gonna be in class now. Just seeing a demon in real life. Mion made up an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with her contacts. After that, neither Rena nor Mion spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Satoko nor Rika-chan looked me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just went back to the way it was. The month since I transferred had been almost too much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling, but today it felt oddly refreshing. The bell rang, sounding the end of a monotonous school day, which had felt so tense yet so dull. Okay. Bro. You need to get home safe. Probably a challenge in and of itself. Lock the freaking house down. And you call Oishi-san and say that Mion has expressly threatened him, saying she intends to kill him. Normally a kid saying that would mean nothing, but in light of everything else, please give him a heads up. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join in the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk in my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading toward the entrance. I was assailed by both an exhausting relief that nothing had happened today and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath, in the recesses of my heart, achingly I knew this would be the last day of this cycle. Yeah, you've revealed too much. I couldn't tell how the ending would be. Whether it would end as I wished it would end or would end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless of my current stance, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me answers. Or could it be that the cries of the Higurashi were so desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere mixed in with their shrieks, Toмотake-san and Satoshi were also probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When do I realize it? I wonder if it'll be amongst the Higurashi fruitlessly crying to their next victim. Glancing down my feet, I saw a Higurashi on its back, spasming weakly. Bwee, bwee, bwee. There was still some of the summer left, yet this one was already chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened. But I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. Oh, fetch me. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once. Oh, I'm so torn. Part of me wants to stop here, so we can just enjoy whatever this is about to be to its fullest next time. But also, I'm terrified. I don't want to stop here. We have to go a little longer. As if they'd huddled together, fearing the person who'd brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. A presence was approaching. The sound of footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat, and in its place a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long, but in the moment when I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly amongst the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass by me? No, since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell I'd hidden myself and was holding my breath. The person telling me, was it Rena, just like yesterday? If it was Rena, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her, make her go away ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Rena, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps ambled closer. I swallowed, wiping my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on the bat. I could tell the fear that I had beaten back was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at the person following me. Oh, I don't like that. And what does she have in her hand? Is the hatchet? And my imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Rena. There was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew, but that feeling left me in an instant. It wasn't the same Rena that I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless. but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent. Yes, it looked like she was grinning slightly. And in her right hand, was a hatchet. Oh boy. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare? Baseball, practicing my swing. There were tons of excuses for me to be carrying a bat. But for that hatchet? There was no excuse for that. A hatchet just like that.
Keiichi-kun, かくれんぼかな?
My heart was pounding, hard enough that I had trouble breathing. The little composure I'd been able to hold on to was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushing forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good, not good, not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here.
レナを驚かせようとしたのかな?
Is she talking the same? I decided it would be better to reveal myself now, since there was still space between us, than to allow Rena to come any closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat again, readied myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the tree.
Keiichi-kun, 見つけた.
Rena was pleased that she'd found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that I'd been hiding. Those eyes, they were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Although, not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of viscous, hot, cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, that substance would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs of my body. Not good, not good. I'll be devoured by Rena at this rate. Strike back. Don't lose.
何の用だよ!
I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Rena didn't flinch for one bit.
ケイチ君と同じ。帰り道だよ。
じゃあそのナタは何だよ!
じゃあケイチ君のそのバットは何なのかな?
俺は素振りで。
じゃあレナは宝探しなの。
Oh no, she does have a good excuse, doesn't she? Rena gave me a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon.
宝探し?
ダム現場の宝の山にね、また新しいかいいのを見つけたの。
I hate this!
だからね、それを発掘するために必要なの。
信じるかよ、そんなの!
信じないよね。
Rena's laugh was obviously very strange. I'd seen Rena's transformation many times before, but this one today was completely different. Like her mischievous tone, the shrewd glint in her eye, it wasn't something that roundabout. I'm not sure what to say. It was just so obvious.
待ってよ、ケイチ君。
I'm gonna have nightmares about that. Rena didn't stop walking even as she let out an eerie laugh. Whenever Rena got too close to me, I would scurry away and turn my back towards her. This cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Rena and was trying to escape.
ついてくるなよ!
それはできない相談だよ。レナの家もこっちだもん。
Man, like, anybody, please! When I met with Rena on the road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Rena didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? If the way home for Rena and me was the same, that's fine. I just changed my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I'd never been down and knew little about. Oh, that's a bad idea. But Rena saw me do that and followed me while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Then just go home down the street you normally do. Why would you follow me down this weird little side road? Those thoughts screamed in my head, eventually spilling out of my mouth.
どうしてついてくるんだよ!
The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror.
ケイチ君とお話ししたいから。
No.
ケイチ君もレナとお話ししたいんじゃないかな。かな。
俺は何も話したいことなんかない！
嘘だよね。相談したいこときっとあるはずだよ。
ない！レナと話すことなんか何もないよ!
She's right, though. You want to know about the bat and about the glass at school?
嘘だよね。
嘘じゃないよ!
嘘だ!
Rena's scream echoed, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only thing I could do was increase my pace.
お話ししようよ、ケイチくん。お話。
No, no, we're not talking. Why was I running down this unfamiliar and deserted street? Yeah, why? Why are you doing that?
ケイチくんには悩んでることがあるんじゃないかな。
ないよ。何にも悩んでない。
嘘だ
Even though I was running, even though Rena was walking, why wasn't I getting any further away?
わかるよ。わかる。レナはわかるよ。怖いんだよね、ケイチくん。
Well, who wouldn't be?
怖くなんかない。何も怖いことなんか。
嘘だ
My breathing grew heavy and felt my legs were giving out from beneath me. Rena wasn't even breaking a sweat.
レナだけは相談に乗ってあげられるよ。今度こそ乗ってあげられる。
I had no idea what she was talking about or what exactly she wanted to do.
今度こそ相談に乗ってあげられる。
What do you mean this time?
サトシ君の時とは違うもの。
Oh no. When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, Rena was still advancing. Couldn't afford to stop.
サトシ君も悩んでた。辛そうだった。でもレナは相談に乗ってあげられなかった。とても悲しかった。
When did the street connect to? All the twists and turns up and downs. It was hard to believe that this was even remotely the direction toward my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window. That's fair. I guess I can't be that upset because it's like he's panicking.
サトシ君が転校しちゃった時ね、本当に後悔したんだよ。レナが相談に乗ってあげれば、サトシ君は転校せずに済んだかもしれないって、すごく後悔した。
The road led me deeper into the forest. Wasn't I getting further away from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm.
だからね、誓ったの。もしもサトシ君みたいに苦しんでる人にもう一度会えたなら、レナが助けてあげようって。もう人が転校するところは見たくないな。
Dang it! What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as Satoshi.
さあ、ケイチ君、レナに話して。レナはきっとケイチ君を理解してあげられるよ。レナだけはケイチ君の味方。
Oh, sure. I started wheezing out of breath. My lungs were so hot they felt like they were going to explode, and my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced running instead of my swing. I couldn't even afford to scoff at the stupid thought.
悩みがなくなれば、きっとケイチ君も元通り。みんなとも仲良しに戻れて、また楽しく部活ができるよ。今度は一緒に組んで、みーちゃんをやっつけようね。
Yeah, how much fun would that be? That would be. Man, I couldn't even imagine how much I wished I could turn back the clock in these past few days.
レナともきっと仲良しに戻れるよ。また一緒に宝探しに行きたいね。今度はお弁当も作っていくよ。なんなら今から宝探しでもいいよ。行こうよ。一緒にダム現場。
That's where people die!
見つけたばかりのかいいの。ケイチくんにも見せてあげるね。きっとケイチくんも気に入るよ。
My footsteps made a pathetic flapping sound as my legs wobbled and faltered. All at my heels, Rena's steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run, being chased by Rena. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Just that if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end, I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything, not yet. The momentary lapse was all it took. Of all things that could have happened, my knees buckled underneath me and I crumpled to the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Rena was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Rena was cool and composed, as she had been frozen in the air around her. She wasn't breathing as hard as at all, but rather I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating.
何が怖いのかな。
Of you!
怯えるなんてケイチくんらしくないよ。
Expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, the mask of affection. She admonished me for trembling. Rena's hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms that had moved made me feel as if I was staring at the god lines of a thousand-armed Buddha. Then the both of her hands met above her head. The hatchet that she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. It was all I could do.
教えてくれ、サトシはどうなったんだよ。
Rena stayed like that, with her hatchet raised above her head, solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never to see again. The cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions.
言ったよ。サトシ君は転校したの。
その転校ってのをやめろよ。鬼隠しってことなんだろ。そうだろ。もう教えてくれたっていいだろ。サトシを消したのは誰だよ。レナかミオンか、それとも村の誰かが。答えろよ。
She was going to say Oishi-san. I became frantic the more I screamed, but Rena did nothing but maintain the smile frozen on her face.
ケイチ君が何を言ってるか。
じゃあ分かるように言ってやる。連続開始事件の犯人は誰だ。
ケイチ君は勘違いしてるよ。
え？
人間の犯人なんかいない。
Right.
すべてはお社様が決めることだもの。
お社様のたたりなんて迷信だろ。レナは信じてるってのか。
信じるとか信じないとかじゃない。お社様はいるの。
Rena's gaze grew even more galed. The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything.
お社様なんているわけが。
ケイチ君は信じないの？お社様。
信じられるはずないだろ。そんなのいるわけがない。
いるよ、お社様。ケイチ君だって身近に感じてるはずだよ。
そんなもの感じたことないよ。
ケイチ君さ、誰かに謝られたことない？それもずっと。
Oh. How would you know? All the noise from outside the world disappeared. Only Rena's voice resounded, loudly and terribly.
それはね、許してもらえるまでずっとついてくるの。学校へも、お家へも、枕元へも。
I couldn't understand what Rena was saying.
レナのところへも来たんだよ、お社様。だからレナは転校して、Hinamizawaに帰ってきたの。
I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Rena saying?
ケイチ君のところにも、お社様。きっと相談に乗れるのは私だけ。
What are you talking about?
ケイチ君を転校なんかさせないから。ね。
Is she gonna laugh, or is that a laugh we hear in our head? Rena's demonic laughter clanged inside my head. Was Rena saying Oyashiro-sama came to her as well? That's right. Last night I heard about when I asked about Rena.
他言無用でお願いします。また内容には一部憶測も含まれているかもしれません。すべてが真実ではないかもしれないということです。よろしいですね。
Oishi-san began speaking.
被害者も学校も告訴していないので、調書がないのです。つまり、警察が関与してないわけなんですよ。ですから、詳細は関係者からの聞き取りのみなのです。つまり、信憑性が高くない。
被害者って言いましたか。レナはガラスを割っただけじゃないんですか。
いえ、男子生徒が3人ほど竜宮レナに殴られています。
Holy crap.
金属バットでです。2人はあざで済みましたが、1人は片目に後遺症を残すほどの大怪我をしたそうです。
We heard that last line, but we didn't hear the beginning part.
それって傷害事件じゃないんですか。警察は逮捕とかしないんですか。
どういうわけか、被害者が告発しないんですよ。警察に届け出がないので。
They were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally there would be criminal investigation. But why didn't they press charges?
被害者の男子生徒3人にもそれぞれ話を聞こうとしましたが、こう言ってはなんですが、怯えてるんですよ。彼女が転校した今でも。
大石さん、話を最初から整理して話してくれませんか。
Rena hit people while she broke the windows. Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? They sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different.
某月某日、竜宮レナは親しい男子生徒3人と一緒にプール倉庫のあたりで話をしていました。
その3人って何者ですか？
個人名は伏せますが、3人とも竜宮レナととても親しい仲良しグループだったそうです。彼女はこう言ってんだったんですな。
So it wasn't that strange for the four of them that the four of them were together.
それでどうなったんです？
理由はわかりません。竜宮レナはプール倉庫脇にあった野球部のバットを手に取り、3人を次々に殴り倒しました。
Why? There were no witnesses. This was an account pieced together by information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Rena and the 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help, rather, they usually met up there. It appears it became a heated discussion. At the time, Rena underwent a change. The change was so abrupt the 3 of them didn't comprehend what was happening. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends one after the other. Leaving her friends covered in blood with gashes on their heads, she made their way towards the school building. Then she broke the glass windows one after the other. A few minutes later, the teacher appeared on the scene and subdued her.
レナに起こった変化って何ですか
？3人の証言で一致するのは、突然人が変わった、豹変したという点です。
豹変
Right. I also could recall Rena's transformation. I'd seen the change many times before. It was so different from the usual Rena that I couldn't help but believe it was someone else who looked like Rena.
その豹変っていうのはたびたびあったことなんですか？
いえ、そういうのは全くなかったそうです。私も調べられる限り、彼女の過去や病歴等を追ってみましたが、
そのレナみたいに突然人が変わる現象って結構あるんですか？
もちろんありますよ。精神的なものから性格的なものまでたくさんあります。
では、レナには潜在的に豹変する要素があったってことですか？
断言はできません。ですが、竜宮レナをよく知る友人たちからの証言では、とても彼女にそういう要素があるようには思えません。
Kind, caring, and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in school like she was now. That girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat? Who could imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen that coming. I myself sometimes believed it was a mistake for thinking Rena was that was Rena even now.
そしてどうなったんですか？
学校の正面が病院でしたので、3人はすぐに病院に担ぎ込まれ、
レナは警察はどうして警察沙汰にならなかったんですか？
警察は呼ばれなければ関与はできませんからね。
That seems wrong. I guess maybe if no one presses charges, maybe that's what he means. Because otherwise it's like, no, police can get involved if they think a crime's occurring.
一人は後遺症を残すくらい大怪我したんじゃないんですか？どうして訴えないんです？
私もそこは引っかかりました。何かの圧力、もしくは脅迫があったのか、それとも訴えたくても訴えられない理由があったのか。
Right.
もちろん大石さんのことですから調べたんですよね。
ねえ、まあ。ですが、初めに言いましたよね。被害者たちの口がとにかく重いのです。触れたがらないというか、関わりたくないというか。
Reluctant to talk. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here in Oyashiro-sama's curse.
学校の先生とかからは何も聞けなかったんですか？
学校は聖域なんですよ。隠蔽体質とでも言いますか。
Right. Schools need to have a reputation. Because they get a bad reputation, they can say goodbye to their funding.
私も捜査令状を取ってませんから弱いんですよね。
じゃあ学校側はノーコメント？
いえ、事件の存在自体を否定しました。
Can you imagine that? Just denial. Just flat out denial.
ですが某日、間違いなく病院に3人の男子生徒が打撲で担ぎ込まれたのは事実なんです。病院にその記録が残ってますので。
被害者は語らず学校は否定する。 何もわからないじゃないですか。
ねえ、その事件があったという事実以上のことは何もわかりません。被害者たちもこの事件が公になることを望んでいませんので、私と前原さん、
For a brief
私
period.
たち二人が忘れれば、事件はそのまま闇に消えるでしょうな。
Sorry, I scrolled too early, so that's the line he was reading. For a brief period, we sat in silence. At first glance, it looked like a simple assault case, but that was just the tip of an iceberg. The depths were obscured by roiling waves sinking quietly into the void as if it never existed to begin with.
その後、学校を謹慎で休学します。そしてその間、神経科医のカウンセリングを受けました。
その医者からは何か聞けたんですか？
これがまた職業倫理のしっかりした尊敬すべき方でしてね。口が硬いんですよ。もうとにかく。
警察手帳を見せてもダメなんですか？
書面で申請しろと言われました。
Right.
手帳自体に法的拘束力は何もありませんからね。
じゃあ大石さんはどうやってレナがお社様のことを告白したことを知ったんですか？
一部を聞いてた看護師さんがいましてね。この方は手帳を見せただけで協力してくださいました。
それでなんと？
Turns out the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently, all that she remembered was that she overheard it from inside the room.
看護師さんが言うには、その時の竜宮レナはとても淡々としていて落ち着いていたそうです。
It was more like she was confessing her sins at church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through her mother was asked to leave, so it became a private counseling session between the doctor and Rena for a while.
例のお社様の話はどこで出てきたんですか？
途中です。その名前を突然叫んだのです。だから看護師さんもびっくりして聞き耳を立てたのです。
Right.
お社様です。
Rena suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what was said before that, so I had no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor calmly and collectedly asked Rena to have a seat.
そのお社様というのは何ですか？
Gently, ever so gently. A fundamental part of counseling is to be a good, patient listener.
ひなみざわを捨てた人は必ずお社様に追われるんです。そしてとうとう私のところにも来たんです。
竜宮さんが今のお家に引っ越される前に住んでいた町ですね。
私は引っ越したくなかったけど、お母さんとお父さんの都合で仕方なく引っ越しました。でもお社様は許してくれなかったんです。
竜宮さんはきっとHinamizawaにもお友達がたくさんいたんでしょうね。今でも懐かしいんじゃないですか？
帰りたい。Hinamizawaに帰りたい。帰りたいんじゃない。帰らなきゃいけない。本当はもっと早くに帰らなきゃいけなかった。でももうダメ。お社様が来てしまった。
お社様というのはそのHinamizawaの神様なんですね。
誰でも知ってるHinamizawaの守り神様なんです。それでHinamizawaを捨てて出て行こうとすると罰を当てるんです。
竜宮さんが引っ越しをされたのはもうずいぶん前ですよね。では今になってその神様がやってきた。
信じないでしょうけどお社様はいるんです。
The nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered.
お社様がか。
確かにHinamizawaにはそういう迷信があります。里を捨てて出ていくとお社様の罰が当たる。この辺りは前原さんもすでにご存知ですよね。
I knew very well those scorned by the village incurred. To hinder the dam construction project that cursed the construction foreman to his death. Then following the year, Satoko's parents, supporters, and leading advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I'd heard the curse incurred by leaving the village.
初耳です。村の外敵がたたられるのはわかりますが、どうして出ていく村人まで。普通出ていくものはたたられないものじゃないんですか？
I know it's a bit strange to say, but I could see there's a rule that the people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. Curses weren't something that chased after people that leave, were they? Oishi-san pondered that for a bit over the other end of the receiver, then began speaking again.
Hinamizawaが大昔鬼ヶ淵と呼ばれていたという話はしましたよね。
Right. I recalled hearing that. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as a village of demons.
麓の村人たちは鬼たちを崇めていました。で、鬼ヶ淵は神聖な土地なので絶対に不可侵。むやみに立ち入るとお社様のたたりがあるとされてきたんです。
Those who set foot in Onikakushi, in other words, Hinamizawa, would be cursed. I could understand that.
それはわかります。でも出ていくのまでダメってのは。
鬼たちもまたですね。属性に出ていかないようお社様に厳しく見張られていたんだとか。つまりお社様っていうのは属性と鬼ヶ淵の交流を禁じていたんでしょうな。
Right. Really sounds like a cult, though, doesn't it? Locking you in, making it feel like you can't leave, not trusting outsiders. I see. I finally understood what sort of thing Oyashiro-sama was.
つまりお社様ってのは守り神ってよりも監視者なんですね。
A jailer.
この地を外界から隔離しようとする。
そんな感じになるんでしょうな。すみません。私も詳しくないんです。この辺りはばあ様の受け売りでして。
I could understand a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So, because Rena originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirement for being cursed.
つまりレナは望まない引っ越しをしたためお社様のたたりにあったと、そう話しているわけですか。
要約するとそういう意味なんでしょうな。実際この後しばらくしてHinamizawaに引っ越していますから。
Those who abandoned Hinamizawa were left were cursed. But then, why only Rena? Shouldn't Rena's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and having been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them were cursed, then it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal at all. At most, there would be one person dying and one person disappearing on the day of Watanagashi. I didn't like saying at most, though.
まあ、とにかくわからないことだらけなんですよ。お社様のたたりがどうだったにせよ、クラスメートを金属バットで殴った理由にはなりませんし、まさか前原さんも恐ろしいたたりが起こって被害者たちがすくみ上がったなんてこと信じるわけないですよね。
Of course, I didn't want to believe it. But more importantly, I had just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Rena made between Oyashiro-sama's curse and the metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Rena as well. She was affected by Oyashiro-sama's curse. She confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon she had used at the time in that horrendous act was, again, a metal bat. And finally, me. I had encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding onto a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It couldn't be. Had the same thing happened to Rena? But there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Rena was still here. Both of them had fallen victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally, me. Couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Rena, Satoshi, and finally me. Could it be that I really was under Oyashiro-sama's curse right now? No, more importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanished without a trace. Rena was fine. Fine? Rena had undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that Rena wasn't Rena residing within her. And here right now, it was standing right before me.
Rena, 教えてくれ。俺はどうなるんだよ。
Rena stood imposingly, not answering.
サトシは消えた。だけどレナは消えなかった。じゃあ俺はどうなるんだよ。
I'd never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had become akin to the sound of her breathing. There was no longer a voice or an expression of feeling.
大丈夫だよ。レナが助けてあげるから。
How? Rena took one step forward, still holding the hatchet high above her head.
さあ。
One step closer, Rena's face spread out to fill my vision.
話して。
One step closer. Rena's nose was close enough to touch mine and was still pushing closer.
話したいことがあるんだよね。レナが聞いてあげる。 助けてあげるから。ね。話してね。話してね。
I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get away from Rena. I had the gut feeling I couldn't let her laughter end. Because when that laughter ended, the moment I picked up on the feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast I couldn't believe it, pushed Rena away with both my hands. Rena was light as a feather. Thrown about by an unbalanced weight of the hatchet, she was sent backwards as if she'd been carried off by the wind. Oh. Oh no. Uh-oh. After confirming that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. That was a perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from Rena. Run away. Survive. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remembered I'd been holding onto the bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about this weapon at such an important time. Okay. We're gonna end here. 'Cause it's not over. We have breathing room. We have breathing room. But we're gonna go to the finale and conclusion, I think, after this. So, next week. Next week. Oh, next week. Fetch me. I don't know. It's unfortunate because, again, I don't know how this happens. Every time. Every time. But, we got a 2 timing, apparently. I think we're gonna end this series next week. And I'm pretty sure that we also have just, like, we'll also finish this week the Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky 2nd chapter. Why does it have to be at the same time? Touch me. Okay. Well, it's alright. It's okay. It's alright. It's okay. I have a plan. I'll talk about it next time, but I think we're going to be seeing the end of this very soon. So, hold out for me on that one. We're going to breathe here. Because I don't think it's over. She's going to keep following us. The thing that occurred to me is like, so we pushed her backwards. She has the hatchet over her head, right? So, oh my gosh, I'm so sweaty. Oh, that's gross. I'm so sorry. My armpits. Oh, I can't help it. I'm stressed. So she has the hatchet up behind her head, right? She's pushed back. If she drops it, she could fall on the hatchet. That's what I thought was going to happen. It might have. But, because wouldn't that be just like a real twist of fate? Is like an accident occurs and she gets hurt or badly injured, and then it gets blamed on him. But I still think that might be what actually ends up happening, because I don't think she's going to give up. I think we're going to wander into the dam site by itself. We're going to find what Rena found her treasure to be, which I don't know. It's going to be a disembodied arm from the dam guy, and then she's going to attack us, and we'll see how it ends. Well, we'll get to that when we get to it. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you don't mind me ending here, but I really feel like this is my only chance, unless we're going to record for like 2 hours, so let's brace ourselves for next time. Thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you enjoy future episodes. We're trying to cultivate a consistency with the subtitles for these episodes. I've been working with somebody in the community. I plan to compensate them with some of the money that's been given by people who are donating on the Patreon and the memberships as a way to try and just elevate the quality of the series. I hope it's a step in the right direction. And it's been really fun to see the progress that's made there. So thank you so much for that happening. And thank you for the support that's allowing me to explore these options to try and improve the quality of the content on the channel. Again, I'm still far too small to be able to do anything on a large scale, but maybe someday. I can hope, right? We can all hope that someday we'll be able to grow the community more. And if anything, to just be able to take some time and explore some fantastic stories together, share in the joy and the horror, the real horror of it all. And also your comments have been wonderful. Last week's were fantastic. They were such a joy to be able to read through. And so thank you so much for that. And yeah, just step away from the world for a while and enjoy these wonderful times, right? But I appreciate you being here with me. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next video you watch, you'll be happy to see me in next. I'll see you there.